pandemic, but the creative industry in particular, being audience-centered, has been the hardest hit. Though I had given the committee 4 weeks to submit its report, it requested for an additional week during today's inauguration, and I granted the extension. I look forward to the committee's recommendation, which I believe will help the industry to rebound post-COVID-19. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of the phase on updates. We shall now take the questions from our colleagues from the press.
The Chairman, members of the task force, my colleagues, my name is Amaka Ode. I report for Arise News. And my first question actually goes to the Chairman of the PTF. Sir, I want to know, is there a nationally agreed number for congregating, especially for religious houses? I ask this because over the weekend, we saw some states ease off on their lockdown and, of course, allowed religious activities to kick off. And even a state allowing up to 500 people to congregate together. So I want to know if there's a national agreement on that. And my next question actually goes to the national coordinator. Yes, there is an extension of the first phase of the easing of the lockdown like you have announced to us. But I want to know, is there a consideration for small and medium business owners and even artisans in this new phase? I ask this because since the lockdown, a lot of these people have been at home and no money is coming in and there's hunger. They've actually written to some of us as journalists to really appeal to you and the PTF to consider them as we continue this easing of the lockdown. And finally, the last question is for the DG of the NCDC. Well, this is a question I had posed to you before, and it has to do with profiling of those who've unfortunately lost to the coronavirus. I ask this because the last time you told us, at that time I think we had about 40 fatalities. Now we're pushing close to 200. Nigerians want to know the profile of those who've died. We don't need to know their names. We want to know how many of them died from underlying illnesses and how many of them died from purely coronavirus complications. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the PTF, my colleagues, good afternoon. My name is Nancy Oyedia Orum from AIT. The Minister of Education, I got this message from a woman. She said, my son is an undergraduate at the University of Ilorin. He started his 6-month sewage program in March, then the COVID-19 lockdown. My son got in touch with his school's coordinator who insisted that he must go to work if his company requires him to be there or risk repeating the program. He's saying, please help find out from the Minister of Education or whoever is in charge of seways in Nigeria. If all other students are staying safe at home, why should their mates be exposed to danger in the name of work experience? All right, my next question goes to the Minister of Environment. Sir, some time ago, you told us that there will be decontamination of about 125 aircraft and airports across the country, and that you have mapped out a number of places that are high-risk areas. I want you to give us updates on what you have done so far. The SGF, sir, there was a question of my colleagues posed to you, I think last week, on the high cost of data, especially for students who are at home streaming classes online. And you promised to speak to the Minister of Communication, so we want to get update on that too. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. Rachel Abuja from the News Agency of Nigeria. My first question is for Senator Sadiq. Welcome, sir. Sir, page 10 of the United Nations documents on COVID-19 stated that all countries need to take in every one person, 1 in 4 person will suffer mental health case in their lifetime. And this is going to put 50 million Nigerians at risk, coupled with the fact that we're fighting 19 now. And my senator is aware that Nigeria, we don't even have a mental health bill yet. So I would like to know what the health committee, Senate Health Committee, will be doing to ensure that mental health affected by the COVID-19 and their families. We can't have health without mental health, Senator. Thank you. My next question is for the DG NCDC. So I would like to know if state independently tests and confirmed cases. This question is informed by the allegations made by some Nigerians saying that some governors actually work with their laboratories of their state to influence this positive number. So I would like to know if there are gains for states with higher positive numbers, and if there are gains for states who are yet to confirm any case. Many thanks.
Good afternoon, the SGF, members of the committee, my colleagues. My name is Nancy Anika from Region Nigeria. My first question is to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So the Air France evacuation flight to Cotonou leaves tomorrow. So Nigerians who are on the flight are asking what are the plans for them to be able to come from Cotonou to Nigeria. The next is to the National Coordinator. Frontline health workers under the FCTA would need your intervention. They said they have not been paid their salaries. And then to the National Coordinator, on Friday you said 5 states in the country are currently participating in the ongoing WHO's solidarity trial. Please, we would like to have the list of these 5 states. Thank you.
Good evening, sirs. Good evening, my colleagues. My name is Femi Akonde. I'm a reporter with TVC News. Minister of Health and maybe the DG NCDC. So I would like to know if you begin to develop a strategy for a possible resurgence or a spike in the demand for hydroxychloroquine, because we know it was earlier reported that in places like Lagos, people started having chloroquine poisoning because of the indiscriminate intake of this to prevent contracting the coronavirus. And just yesterday, following the comments from the United States President, we are hearing reports that the demand has increased again. So what are you doing to counter all of this? And sir, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, sir, we are hearing that the Nigerians studying in Malaysia, we know there's a large number of Nigerians there, about more than 13,000 of them have been threatened, or they are being threatened with deportation if the government does not evacuate them as soon as possible. What are you doing to intervene in that situation? Thank you, sirs.
Good evening, members of the PTF. My name is Juliana Taiwo Baloyan. I write for the Sun newspapers. This is for you, the coordinator, please. Despite the assurances from the PTF of having one national response of this pandemic, reports from states is saying otherwise. The latest victim of this is the Poultry Association of Nigeria, one of those rendering essential service. According to them, last week, Thursday, drivers conveying a day-old chicks to poultry farms in the north from Ibadan were asked to stop at Jeba in Niger State by security agents. And when they asked why, they said the governor had ordered that the bridge be closed. This led to over 15,000 birds on transit This led to the death of over 15,000 birds on transit and the loss of over 5 million naira. The question is, one, how do they recover this loss? And secondly, is there a special process they need to follow in order to avoid the repeat of this disaster in future? Thank you.
Good evening, all. My name is Friday Kerigbe. I'm a reporter with Channels TV. I'd like to direct my first question to the Minister of Health. Last week, you told us about health workers who recovered from the disease, that they were waiting for reconfirmation before they go back to their workplace. I'd like to have an update on that. How many of them have returned to their duty post since that time? Then my second question, I would like to seek a clarification from the chairman. It has to do with what you told us last week, that the federal government will be taking its delivery of the Madagascar cure. I'd like to know if we have taken the delivery and if any cost was involved. Because I'm sure you must have read it in some platform that the federal government paid certain amount of money to ferry in those cures. So I'd like to seek that clarification from you. And lastly, I would like the Minister of Interior to respond to this. It has to do with the Chinese medical team. Stories are also going around that they have left the country. I'd like him to tell us, how many weeks or months visa did they actually get when they came into the country? Have they, at the time elapsed, have they left the country or they are still in the country? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my son on the already established protocols. My name is Kenneth Nanim. I report for Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA. Mine is more of an appeal. There have been complaints from my colleagues, that they are not being allowed, they are not given a passage by security agencies, on the road. They are still having difficulties, to get access to their destination, So this is their experience every day. So I am appealing on behalf of my colleagues and other people who are on essential duty that the PTF will also, engage with the security agencies to ensure that those of us who are on essential duty, are allowed passage, on the road. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ernest A.K. I'm from Voice of Nigeria. My questions go to the DG and CDC. So Nigerians would like to know how exactly is the community testing done? They asked, is it that members of the NCDC stay in a particular area in a community and ask residents to come for testing? They would like you to throw more light on that. And the second is, since we are asked to wash our hands constantly with soap or use hand sanitizers and also disinfect surfaces, what about our foods and fruits, for example, that we get in the market? For example, the mango that one will come and touch and you not buy, the other will come and touch it, to maybe something like that, it gets infected. Now, how would this be done? We see that they would, definitely we're not going to wash them with soap, so they usually use maybe water and salt. Do you think this is sufficient to, disinfect the fruits and food? And the third question, this is a follow-up on we do. Someone would like to know, and I'll read it verbatim. If we can get daily numbers of confirmed cases, don't you think we can also get numbers of tests done daily instead of getting it weekly, like you rightly said last week? Thank you.
Thank you. We have taken in all the questions and we'll be receiving responses from the Honorable Minister of Health, the DG NCDC, the National Coordinator, the Honorable Minister of State Education, Honorable Minister Environment, Honorable Minister Foreign Affairs, Honorable Minister Interior. Then we shall take response from the distinguished senator before the SGF wraps it up.
Thank you very much. I want to start by using the opportunity to give an advisory on sanitizers. You see a lot of sanitizers out in the market, and a study carried out by a research institution, the Ministry of Health, has shown that not all of them are up to standard. So in buying sanitizers, there is an advisory that must be shared, and you must look, first of all, for the NAFDAC number. You should have a NAFDAC number. Secondly, you should have a place where the ingredients are displayed, the ingredients. And among these ingredients, you must see that it contains minimum of 60% alcohol, 60. So if it is anything different from that, that sanitizer is not going to do the job you think it's doing. So look for the label. The ingredients will be displayed. If there are no ingredients displayed, it's not for you. And the ingredients, you will see minimum of 60. Usually it can be up to 70. 70% is good. So that is the advisory. As for the question of recovering health workers, generally those who have recovered after their treatment are monitored for 14 days, during which they will generally be recovering from the strain of hospitalization, and many of them go to work. But I think since many are privately engaged, how they actually go to work is not monitored as such, but they're all advised to report if they have any problem. Now, the other question, although it's actually directed at the Center for Disease Control, I'm not sure if the data is with him, about the fatalities from different sources. The breakdown, the aggregate, is actually from Department of Hospital Services, and I can get you the figures, if you like, from Ministry of Health, containing the age group and the circumstances in some cases, so that you can have a clearer picture. It's quite a bit of data. I can get that to you at the next visit. And I think the other question was about hydroxychloroquine. First, we do not at any time and in any way support self-medication. And if anybody, you hear that any person is taking medication of any type, it is obviously something prescribed by his doctor. There are medicines that normally should not be in your hand unless it was prescribed by a doctor. There are medicines called OTC, over the counter. You can buy yourself. It can be Panadol, aspirin, any kind of rub, anything for cough. OTC medicines you can buy over the counter. There is also prescription medicine, which you should not have unless the doctor has prescribed it. But here where people can buy almost what they want, it is not recommended. I do not recommend that you take anything except your doctor has prescribed it to you. As I said before, there is a study being done on the efficacy of some drugs by about 5 centers in our country. Hydroxychloroquine is one of them. When the result comes out, I will share with you. But again, stay with what your doctor has prescribed. Do not start self-medicating. Do not become a doctor for yourself. Otherwise, you can do serious harm to your own self. It was reported that some people did harm to themselves when they started taking chloroquine in Lagos on the information that chloroquine was going to help. So I think that is all that concerns the health sector. Thank you.
So thank you. Amaka, I think that the Honorable Minister has answered the question on that. We'll continue doing that analysis, and as our numbers grow, present that. We do have the data, and we analyze that regularly. And we will share when in due course. I think, Rachel, you asked about whether states are independently confirming cases and whether there's any benefit in increased confirmations or decreased confirmation. None of them. Whether you report more or less, there's no direct relationship between the number of cases and how much support you get. So I don't see the benefit of either reporting more or reporting less. So in our situation report today, we've made public, following your request, the number of tests that every state in Nigeria has carried out so far. I think the data speaks for itself. I think, Femi, you asked about, the question of hydroxychloroquine, that's been answered. We cannot comment on what other presidents are saying. We can only comment on what our own president says. The fourth question was, Mr. Eke, you spoke about, you had 3 questions. One on community testing. Now, we're not doing community testing everywhere. In certain states like Lagos, Kano, we're taking the test a lot closer to the community because of the intensity of transmission in those states. So in those states, and even the FCT, some of it was done for specific amounts of time. So in those states, the state is identifying hotspot areas, and based on these identification, intensifying testing in that community. We haven't gotten to the stage of doing community testing across the country. So we're doing it targeting hotspot areas identified by states. The other question was on transmission, hand washing, and fruits. Hand washing is good, whether you're eating fruits or not. So the first thing is, whether you're going to eat a fruit or not, always wash your hands. Fruits have not been identified as specifically mode of transmission of this virus, so we advise you continue treating your fruits as carefully as I hope you have always treated them, washing them with water. But the key thing is washing the hands with which you're touching the fruits. If you do that sufficiently, you'll be fairly safe. You had a third question. Why can we not report the number of tests daily? Sorry about this. We've just started reporting it weekly. It takes an enormous amount of effort to get that daily number of cases out to Nigerians every day. Remember, there's hardly any indicator that is reported right now on a daily basis in Nigeria. Whether it's crime, aviation, education, petroleum products. So to have that CITREP out every single night takes a lot of effort gathering this data because you're collecting data from every state in Nigeria, every lab. So we will get there. The first step is what we've done. We're committed to sharing that data weekly, and as our data systems improve, we work towards sharing it in real time as cases are confirmed. So, thank you.
Thank you. So the first question, I think, has to do with the impact of the lockdown on the informal sector of the economy. And the PTF certainly appreciates the adverse impact that this is having on people's livelihood. But as I keep on saying, we're trying to balance saving lives with saving livelihoods. We are in the process of moving towards further relaxation of the lockdown, but as far as the next 2 weeks are concerned, nothing has changed. We have been given approval by Mr. President to extend those same conditions we had 2 weeks ago for very good reasons. One being that we are not convinced that the time has come in terms of the impact on the pandemic to further relax those restrictions. And as we all know, the level of compliance with some of the guidelines that we have provided has been limited at best in some areas. And we have to make sure that whatever we do in terms of taking actions or decisions, it does not impact, we do not end up dragging ourselves back to the beginning of the pandemic again. But we do appreciate this, and it's one of the things that we will continue to consider as we monitor the next 2 weeks. So the other thing has to do with states and whether we really have harmony across our response. So as I said earlier on, we are encouraging states to come up with their own state-specific initiatives. This pandemic is going to be with us for a little longer. It cannot continue to be driven primarily from the federal level. We have to ensure that state governments start taking ownership. Our responsibility is to provide guidance to the states and make sure that those decisions that we have taken at the federal level are being implemented in one way or the other by the state governments. As we all know, the key responsibility of any government is to ensure the health and well-being of their people. And I'm sure the state governors are doing the same as well. And they're very much aware of these responsibilities. It's also about community engagement. It's also about personal responsibility. When we talk about relaxing the lockdown, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are safer and you can come out and engage in your normal day-to-day activities. Particularly as it relates to vulnerable people and the elderly, you are much safer staying at home. So in as much as we say, yes, we have relaxed for the next so-so number of hours, and the curfew will only be from this time to this time, it doesn't mean that you can go out and do your normal activities without catching COVID. That risk assessment has to be a personal one, and people need to be aware of the risks that they are putting themselves into by engaging in mass gatherings, etc. There was also another question about whether the PTF had a specific guideline regarding mass gatherings. So we'll continue to maintain that we strongly discourage gathering of people beyond 20 unless it's a workplace situation. This is simply because if you have a lot of people gathering in one location, you cannot enforce physical distancing. If we have 50 people in this particular hall, there's no way we can maintain 2-meter distance with each other. And therefore, that's the reason why we are putting these rules in place. And we still haven't reached the stage where we can safely say, let's get rid of this component. And as I keep on saying, it's all about implementing this as a bundle. If you pick and choose, the impact it will have will be much less than delivering all 5 components, whether it's hand washing, sanitization, physical distancing, avoiding mass gatherings, etc. The use of face masks. Those components have to be delivered all at once as a bundle. If you pick and choose, you're further exposing yourself to the risk of catching COVID. The other question has to do with the solidarity trial. I believe WHO might be in a better position to answer this, but at the last set of information I had is we have Lagos, FCT, Ogun, Kaduna, and Sokoto having signed up to participate, and the trial is still at the information gathering stage. And then finally, there was the issue of truck drivers being stopped at state borders and leading to the death of chickens and loss of income. So I think our guidelines are very clear. The restrictions on interstate travel does not apply to essential travel or essential services. And we have specifically excluded agriculture and agric-related activities. Law enforcement, as far as I know, belong to federal authorities, and we expect the guidelines that we have provided and the work we are doing with the security chiefs to be respected by these law enforcement agencies, where people are allowed free movement either because of the type or nature of the work they are doing. They should be allowed free movement across state borders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will take the Honorable Minister of Environment now.
Mr. Chairman, members of the PTF, distinguished Senator, ladies and gentlemen and ladies of the press, good afternoon. The question on which areas have we already covered as far as decontamination, disinfection is concerned, and the update on the aviation industry. So far, we have actually, we are planning on presenting a long list of areas that we have decontaminated tomorrow, but I can give you an update on the ones that we have done so far and ongoing. Currently, as I speak with you, there is a team in the Northwest, right now even working at ABU, Ahmadu Bello University. Over the weekend, they decontaminated and disinfected NDA, Nigerian Defense Academy, and some other places, the courthouses around that area. Again, tomorrow, the teams in South-South and Southeast will commence decontamination and disinfection, particularly one in Edo, and then the other one will start in Anambra. Equally, next week, we will have the team that will start in the Northeast, Adamawa, Gombe, and places like that. And then the same next week, also our team will continue in Lagos. Lagos, we have been doing a lot of decontamination and disinfection because of the situation of Lagos right from the beginning. So Southwest will be continuing, but we'll have a list by tomorrow that will do that. The aviation industry. What's really happening is, I told you earlier that this is an industry that is, different. You have to tread it carefully because of its safety kind of structure. And one of the issues also has to do with the kind of chemicals. The industry really want to sit with us and look at these chemicals that we are using for decontamination, disinfection, as it will affect their equipment, especially aircraft and other equipment. This is very important. So tomorrow we will be sitting with the officials of the aviation industry to do that. Again, we'll keep you updated on that too. On this note, I would like to again call the attention of people about the adhering to the lockdowns. And I'll do it in Hausa just for a minute or two. Jama'a assalamu alaikum. Mana so ne mu ƙara jaddada muku maganan dokar nan ta zaman gida. Tana da muhimmanci kwarai da gaske. Shine ɗaya daga cikin dalilan da yasa wannan cutar bata yaɗu fiye da yanda da aka tsammani za ta yaɗu ba, saboda wannan zaman gidan. Wannan tazara da ake samu wajen mu'amala yana rage yanda in mutum na kusa da kai in yayi tari ko yayi atishawa ba za ka iya kama wannan cutar cikin sauƙi ba, domin ga irin yanayin yanda take. Kuma sa wannan takunkumi yana da ƙwarai muhimmanci fiye da yanda ake tsammani. Mun lura mutane da yawa suna sawa, kuma haka ya kamata, muna kuma godiya, amma muna ƙara kira ga waɗanda ba sa sawa su daure su yunkuri su sa, su kare kansu, su kare wasu. A halin da ake ciki, duk wanda ka gani baka sani ba me yake ciki, shi ma bai san me kake ciki ba, saboda haka ana kallon kallo ne. To mafi ala shine kowa ya zamana ya kare. Wanke hannu da ake magana, a wanke akai-akai. Ko ba komai, ko da ba corona, tsafta wani abu ne shi kanshi da in kama yi za ka ji daɗi. A ci gaba da duk ƙoƙari ana bin waɗannan dokokin. In gwamnati ta ce ka fito ƙarfe kaza ka koma ƙarfe kaza, domin kanka ne. Wanda zai fara cin moriyan rashin kama cutan kai ne, wanda zai fara wahala in ya kama cutan kai ne. To saboda haka ya kamata a yi ƙoƙari a bi, a san cewa an gudu tare, an tsira tare. In Allah ya daba da daɗa wannan cuta, za mu ga bayanta. Assalamu alaikum.
Honorable Minister of State Education.
Well, good evening, everybody. The question relates to seaways as part of a training program for your graduation exercise in a university. My general governance to my fellow students, all of us are still very loyal students, is first of all to be loyal to your lecturer. Follow what the lecturers have said. Follow your teacher. If it is a requirement for you to complete your undergrad studies, please do. However, if you're to participate in a work experience exercise and the place is not open, it's not your fault that it is not open during this COVID period, and you may need to just make those remarks to your lecturer, informing him not that you will not go. Why would you not go when other people are not going? That's not the idea. The idea is that the place may not be available, but if it is available, this period of COVID may not necessarily be excused. So as a general guidance principle for all students, the most important person in your life at the time you are learning is probably your teacher and your lecturer. So you will do well to first of all obey and then make the various remarks that then accompany obeying. But there's also a second part to a question that had been raised here earlier, which the SGF may want to look at. But that question had been answered before, where I explained that almost all our online services have been granted data-free status by all the major networks as part of the collaboration they have already rolled out with us. So if your child or if you go to any of our e-learning platforms, so most of them are already accessible on a free data platform from each of them. They've also gone ahead to, I'm sure, generally reduce data offers within the period as part of what they are offering. But that is available to everybody. It does not matter whether you're education or not. But for their specific data education websites that for which they've already granted free data. So I'm not sure whether the SGF will have further to say on that, but that's their position. Thank you very much. Thank
you. Honourable Minister, Foreign Affairs.
PTF, members of the PTF, and everybody here present, good evening. There are two questions that were directed at me. The first concerned Nigerian citizens in France who are inquiring whether they could safely board an Air France plane destined for Cotonou, Benin, and with the assumption that they can then cross over into Nigeria. When the question, of course, was asked, I had the benefit of sitting next to the Minister of Interior, who also is responsible for the land border of our country. So, but essentially, the thing is this. We have a protocol in place, and we can only take people according to a number of things. The facilities, for one, that we have available, where they will be quarantined for 2 weeks, and when we have adequate staffing to monitor them for that period of 2 weeks. So that is really the precondition for an approval for anybody to come into the country from outside. As you know, I've reported here in the past that we have taken in almost 100 Nigerians who have come in through the land borders from Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana, in fact. The possibility is there, but first and foremost, we have to be sure that we have the requisite capacity to take in those passengers. So the simple answer to them in this particular case, if it is the case that they've already bought tickets and have boarded the flight or are about to board the flight, is that when they get to Cotonou, if it's a fait accompli, we will, as in the past, liaise with our chargé d'affaires in Cotonou and with the two states, depending on the borders that they choose to go through, to see what capacity there might be. And not knowing, again, the numbers that we're talking about, who might have boarded this flight in France to go to Cotonou, and then see how we can process them from Cotonou. But there's certainly no guarantee that they would have immediate access to the country until such a time as they can be absorbed. The second question was that there are 13,000 students in Malaysia under threat of deportation, presumably overstaying their visa. I don't know what the reasons would be for such deportation. But we have not in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs got any such information. Ordinarily, if such a thing were to happen or to be considered, our mission there, we have an embassy there, would have informed us, and we would have engaged with the Malaysian government in respect of that. But the global practice at the moment is that every country knows that there is that the airspace has been closed all around the world, and that there are people, in those countries who, through no fault of their own, might be forced to overstay the duration of their visas. So it's not the practice at the moment for governments to unilaterally embark on issues of deportation, and that's certainly not how such a matter will be dealt with, if indeed that is the case with Malaysia. But I try to call. There are about a number of hours ahead of us, so I think the members of our embassy there are understandably not picking their phones, are probably fast asleep, but we will get in touch with them just to verify if that story is indeed the case. Thank you very much.
Good evening. We greet you all once again, and we must forever appreciate the very, very active, inquisitive, and curious Nigerian journalists who we want to get into everything and expose everything. It's good for a democracy, and we thank you for it. Indeed, 15 Chinese nationals came into Nigeria on the 8th of April this year. And from everything we have heard and said, they were here on the bill of CCECC, a Chinese company working in Nigeria, doing some work for us in several places. And in conjunction with some Nigerian companies, agreed to support us in the effort to respond to the pandemic. At IDU, they participated in retrofitting and equipping the isolation center there. They equally worked on the dome project that was handled by the NNPC consortium in conjunction with this day. And the lead company in the NNPC consortium is Sahara Energy. So those were the locations in which they came to work, both in retrofitting the entire facilities, the two facilities, and installing critical, essential, and sensitive medical equipment. They came in, 15 of them came in on the 8th of April. They came on a 30-day visa issued in Beijing. They are still here. And I know I need to tell you why they are here. They are still here, not because they've not completed their job, but because there is a restriction on travels in Nigeria occasioned by the protocol of COVID-19. I think that answers the question. I thank you.
Now we'll take the response from distinguished Senator Sadiq Umar.
The chairman of PTF, who is boss by name but is also the boss, members, honorable ministers, members of PTF, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Well, for clarity, I'm here to observe in an oversight function as a follower from where we came from. But of course, I trust you, press guy, you want to oversight me here too, which is good. And luckily for you, it's a very good question, and you've also directed it to the right person. Because as I've been the vice chair of primary healthcare and communicable diseases, I'm equally the chairman for Senate Rules and Business. So for every bill that gets into the Senate, it comes from my table. I can tell you authoritatively that this Senate is aware of how antiquated mental ill laws are. So as of today, distinguished Senator Ibrahim Yahya Oloriegbe has sponsored a new robust mental ill bill that has passed the first reading, it has passed the second reading, and is referred to the committee for the final, preparation to be passed. Unfortunately, with COVID, we can't have public hearing. But I can assure you, he is the chair of that committee too. So as soon as, we can have public hearing, this law will pass expeditiously. Trust me. Interestingly, mental ill is equally as important to us in Senate that another distinguished senator, Senator Shetima, also brought another bill on mental health as well. Passed the first reading, that is about to go for the second reading. So be rest assured that mental health concerns will be robustly taken care of by this National Assembly. However, let me say that laws alone will not solve our mental health problem. Mental health is a multidimensional issue, emotional, economic, and superstitions. Some people believe witchcraft is an illness, and the society has a role to play in that. Good governance has a role to play in that. And again, let me say, with the permission of the chair, that we, the legislature, this night assembly, we've decided we are going to work with the executive. We'll collaborate with them in anything they are doing to serve Nigerian people. We've demonstrated that enough. And I tell you something, even if we don't want to do that, there's a new sheriff in town now. It's called Oga Corona, isn't it? COVID-19. In fact, even stubborn husbands have been made to behave now with their wives and family. So you are be rest assured that anything that has to be done to support this team, we've discussed that and we've agreed. Key things we've identified is that we have to do more testing. All resources that is required, we're going to support and provide. We need to communicate more to our people, explain to our people more. People have to take more responsibility. We need to coordinate more with the state governments. We need to do all of this. But there's something that came out very, very importantly in our meeting today, is that we need to be more aggressive. We need to be more courageous in dealing with COVID-19, because this virus is here and it's going to be around for a long time to come. I assure you that. We can't continue to run away. We have to take courageous decisions. However, we will not take decisions stupidly without considering science and data. And as scanty as data is so far, what is available is good enough for our scientists, and we have a lot of them working with this team, to play around with the data and tell us what's going on. We know what the morbidity and the mortality is saying so far. We need to open this country, but slowly, carefully, and scientifically. And we'll do that so that the damage that COVID is causing economically, nobody can quantify it, given the mortality and the morbidity we are experiencing in Nigeria. Now, let me say something lastly, which is that there are key things you guys in the press must carry to our people. We have to take responsibility. Even if the government opens, enforcement can best be carried out by taking responsibility. Citizens, we wash our hands, we social distance, we wear face masks. This is a life we have to live with for a long time to come. But I tell us something, I expect a cultural revolution. COVID-19 should bring that to us, which is, for example, we say social distancing. We love parties, wedding ceremony, and this costs us billions of naira. Please, let's stop this for some time and reinvest that money in education and health. Well, those who are rich and powerful already have enough money for their education and health. Please reinvest that for the masses and help those who need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, distinguished Senator. I now call on the chairman of the PTF on COVID-19, the SGF.
I think today is my best day. I just have one question to answer. Today is my best day because my colleagues have taken off all the burden and answered all the questions. I just have to answer the question that deals with the Madagascar consignment. We have repeatedly said here that we did not ask for it. It was given by the government of Madagascar to African countries as their contribution to wanting to find solution to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I have repeatedly said our consignment, those of West African countries, were dropped off Guinea-Bissau, and that we were making arrangements to go and airlift it. As God will have it, the president of Guinea-Bissau decided to visit our president last Saturday. So when he was coming, he came with our consignment of 5 cartons, and those 5 cartons were delivered to me yesterday in the evening, sealed, not a bottle out of it. I'm going to engage the Minister of Health, who has responsibility of validation through his institutions that are chartered by law to do that. And the president was upfront with that even when he took delivery of it from the president of Guinea-Bissau. He said it quite clearly that what we were going to do with the consignment will be guided by science. After the processes of validation, we will now know where to go. In terms of the question of whether it comes with a cost, well, it was handed to me without an invoice. So I assume it doesn't come with any cost. That's my assumption. For that, I think the Madagascar issue and the Chinese issue should be laid to rest. Because both these two issues are not central to the problem that we have at hand now. They're not central. So we should try as much as possible to minimize the judicious use of our time to deal with important issues. I believe you would support us in this cause, that these two issues should be laid to rest. and there shouldn't be any further interrogation or use of our precious moments and times or matters that will not help our country fight COVID-19. I would close and thank you specifically for what you've been doing for this nation by ensuring that you show up every day in spite of the challenges that you have, even turning up in the places of your work. But that is the call of duty and the sign of responsibility on the part of each and every one of you. And I would want to give you this assurance that the nation owes you a great deal of gratitude for what you've been doing. You are exposing yourself even in the line of duty by showing up every day. Some of you stay probably out of the city environment, but you have to make sure that you turn up at every given time to do your bit in gathering information that will be helpful to our people and sharing it out there. And I want to thank distinguished Senator Sadiq Umar for what he has said today. Life after COVID-19 will not be our normal type of life again. COVID-19 has come and it has disrupted everything you know as normal. And the benefit of that disruption is that we will begin to put on our thinking caps and begin to address issues differently, because it has exposed the weaknesses in all systems. It's not only the Nigerian health system that has been exposed. Even the big countries with very strong economies, COVID-19 has exposed every gap in their system. The system of health, their social safety nets, their governance issues have all been disrupted. And I can assure you that after COVID-19, at an individual level, at a community level, at the state level, at the national level, we will begin to do things differently. It cannot be business as usual again. If we do not learn anything from COVID-19 and build institutions that will be enduring and sustainable, we would have failed the next generation. I want to thank you and have a good evening. Which one? Of what? Oh, those that are involved in it? Well, I think he did. Dr. Sani answered that. Yeah. Well, I don't know the states, but I think Dr. Sani can come up the stage and answer that. Okay, he will give you the information at the close of the conference. Thank you. Tomorrow, I think we have FEC tomorrow. We have visual FEC tomorrow, because you can see that even government activities is taking a new dimension. So we can't guarantee that we'll be available for the briefing tomorrow, but we rest assured, be assured that we will see you on Thursday. For tomorrow, we have virtual FEC. We don't know when to finish, and we don't want to keep you waiting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, SGF. Once again, we must say a very big thank you to our partners and to Nigerians watching us from home and from their various offices. Before we close today, we want to bring you this message, and that's that the virus will not disappear anytime soon. We are in for a long haul. We urge businesses, offices, professional bodies, places of worship, educational institutions, and what have you, either already opened or awaiting reopening to plan and adopt new strategies under a COVID-19 era. Above all, behavioral change is a must for every citizen because COVID-19 has changed the world completely. God bless Nigeria. We thank you very much. We hope to see you on Thursday for the next briefing. Thank you.
Welcome back from the briefing by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. The Senate has received a request from President Muhammadu Buhari for the confirmation of Lamido Yigida as Director General and 3 others as Commissioners of the Securities and Exchange Commission. The Senate has also considered the bill to establish the National Food Reserve Agency, the bill sponsored by Senator Abdullahi Adamu, which passed second reading. The legislators commended President Muhammadu Buhari for directing the Nigerian army to carry out a major military operation against bandits in Katsina State, as it called for the expansion of the operation to include Niger, Kaduna, Zamfara, Sokoto and other states facing banditry. The motion of urgent public importance was moved by the Deputy Chief Whip, Senator Aliu Sabi Abdullahi. Senate urged heads of security agencies to deploy more security personnel to Adamawa State, especially along the border communities, to check continuous attacks on the people by bandits and intercommunal clashes, and for the Northeast Development Commission to commence rehabilitation of areas destroyed. Senate paid tribute to 3 of its late former members, Fidelis Okoro from Enugu State, Robert Koliosho from Oyo State, Paul Wampana from Adamawa State, and the late Dr. Yusuf Amuda Aluko from Kwara State. And now we'll be joining Kenneth Nanim for updates on the just concluded briefing.
Thank you, Najah. Yes, the PTF says it has continued to, bear with Nigerians on the pains they are passing through due to the lockdown caused by the coronavirus pandemic. But the PTF also, assured Nigerians that government is doing whatever it should do, to ensure the country contains this pandemic. And the PTF is also asking Nigerians to, observe all precautionary measures put in place to ensure that this virus is contained by maintaining social distancing, washing of their hands, as well as, also maintaining other personal protocols, hygiene protocol to be safe. The PTF is also asking Nigerians also to, not to move around if they don't have need to move around. They continue to stay at home, and also ensure that security agencies on the roads enforce the lockdown on interstate movements.
Thank you, Kenneth. Now, is there any, concerning the use of face masks, have there been any new updates? Is it easy to maintain status quo?
Okay, no, there's no new development. The PTF is saying that Nigerians should continue to, wear their face masks all the time to avoid the spread of the virus. They're supposed to be wearing their face masks anytime, whether in the public, especially when they are very close to individuals or when they are in a crowd. They're supposed to put on their face masks and also use sanitizers if necessary.
Okay, Kenneth, thank you. I think you've covered all the bases there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of the newly constituted Board of Trustees of the Nigeria Police Trust Fund have officially assumed duty with the inauguration by the Minister of Police Affairs, Muhammad Megari Dingyadi. Francis Form quoted the minister advising them to exercise control over the management of the trust fund with a view to ensuring accountability and proper utilization of funds.
Adequate funding for training of personnel and provision of required logistics for almost all aspects of policing functions have been advanced as reasons for lapses in the discharge of their responsibilities. It is to address these challenges that President Buhari signed into law the Nigeria Police Trust Fund Establishment Act 2019. Just a few days after naming the members, the Minister of Police Affairs has inaugurated the board, raising hope for a better police force.
In the discharge of its duty under this Act, the Board of Trustees shall, through the Ministry, identify funding needs of the various police institutions for the enhancement of the performance of the Nigerian police force, enter into contractual agreements for the purpose of executing approved projects on behalf of the trust fund, oversee the implementation of projects financed through money accruing to the trust fund.
The board, led by former Inspector General of Police Suleiman Abba, understands the task before it.
This is indeed the beginning of police reforms that hopefully will lead to a police force that is professional and respects and protects the rights of all Nigerians and those living in Nigeria.
All eyes are now on the board to breathe life into the operations of the Nigeria Police Force within the 3 years of its tenure. In Abuja, Francis Form, NTA News.
Let's now join Abubakar in Maiduguri for more reports from that zone.
And thanks for joining us in Maiduguri. The federal government provided assorted food items to Borno State government as palliative to cushion the hardship of COVID-19 lockdown on the people. Ministry of Inter Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development presented the materials to the Deputy Governor Borno State and Chairman COVID-19 Response Team Umar Usman Kadafur for onward distribution to beneficiaries. Jetwa Tunjesni reports.
The federal government food intervention to Borno State comprised of 1,800 bags of rice, tomato paste and vegetable oil, a consignment meant for distribution to beneficiaries across the state. Presenting the items, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs Sadia Umar Farouk, represented by the Director of Humanitarian Affairs of the Ministry, Grema Ali, said the intervention is to cushion the impact of the COVID-19 lockdown, particularly on the most vulnerable. The State Deputy Governor and Chairman COVID-19 Response Team Umar Usman thanked the federal government for the gesture, stressing that it will go a long way in ameliorating the hardship people are facing due to the restriction. Similarly, Oriental Energy Resource Company Limited presented a donation of 90,000 units of hand sanitizers and more than 16,000 units of liquid hand wash to the Borno State government to assist in curtailing the spread of COVID-19.
The most important thing is we're trying to emphasize on the issue of hygienic improvement, and we're campaigning for social distances. This COVID is real. We have to observe social distances.
The State Deputy Governor and Chairman COVID-19 Response Team expressed appreciation to the federal government, individuals and organizations for sustaining assistance towards the prevention of COVID-19 in the state and called on other organizations to support government to cope the global health challenge. In Maiduguri, Jadwajon Jesini, NTA News.
The suspension of the 3 weeks lockdown as a result of COVID-19 in Borno State has offered an opportunity for residents of Maiduguri, the state capital, to commence preparations in earnest a few days to the Eid al-Fitr celebration. Yagumsu Bukar reports.
The lockdown in Borno, which started even before the Ramadan fast, except for a few days given for people to restock their homes, had in one way or the other affected plans for Salah celebration in good time.
It is few days to Eid al-Fitr and 3 weeks of Ramadan fast in lockdown. Now that people are out, preparations for the festivity is in earnest.
Despite the heat coupled with Ramadan fast, people stood in long queues patiently waiting to withdraw cash at ATM points and banking halls, all in preparation for the festivity, with some adhering to use of face masks, which is mandatory in public places. With pressure around the financial institutions for cash, many did not observe social distancing.
We are here since on last week, on Friday, on the day when they said that they start commencing payment. Up till now, we didn't get our money.
It is a tradition of Eid al-Fitr that new clothes are worn after the month of Ramadan, which makes the feast unique. Babalai is one of the main tailoring centers in the state, but tailors are lamenting over low patronage due to lockdown, saying this time last year, customers were queuing to give their clothes for sewing. This is Milk Shop and Magaram streets of the metropolis, regarded as some of the key areas of shopping highly patronized by people in an effort to avoid congestion, especially now with COVID-19 and the crowding that characterize major markets.
All the measures for safety against COVID is well put in place. It's safer and then it's more convincing, you're sure that this is being protected. That's why I definitely prefer coming to the shopping mall.
With the suspension of lockdown in Borno, it is expected that people will adhere to the safety protocols as they make hurried shopping for the festivity. In Maiduguri, Yagum Subukar, NTA News.
You're watching Nationwide on the Nigerian Television Authority. Let's take a break now. Naja'atu in Abuja will be back shortly.
The number of the COVID-19 cases in Nigeria is increasing daily, with many more tests ongoing. The battle of testing, isolating, treating, and attending to the affected persons rests heavily on the shoulders of our health workers, constantly putting their lives on the line and at risk to contain this virus, save and protect the lives of millions of Nigerians. To these health workers, we at the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, on behalf of millions of Nigerians, say a big thank you for all that you have done and are doing. To the security agencies enforcing the lockdown and every other frontliner, we say thank you for putting your lives on the line to save ours. There is no amount of words that can quantify our gratitude. Thank you. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 2255 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
Nigerians, let us take responsibility. Stay healthy, stay safe, and curb the spread of the virus. Take responsibility. The coronavirus spreads from one person to another. Let us avoid crowd gathering of any kind for any reason. Take responsibility. Avoid traveling from one state to another during these lockdown restrictions. Obey all the rules that are put in place. Take responsibility. Stop spreading fake news and unverified reports about the coronavirus. There is no known cure for COVID-19. Take responsibility. Observe all the measures that can help stop the spread of the virus. Together, we can do this, but only if we take responsibility. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Hi there, my name is Susanna Dekoka. I know this is a tough time for everyone, but the threat is not the people. The threat is the virus, the coronavirus. So, Fight the virus and not the people. Being infected with COVID-19 is not a death sentence. It is treatable. As a matter of fact, the virus does not discriminate. Neither should we. Therefore, say no to stigmatization. Say no to discrimination. Be kind. Be supportive. Stigma will not fight COVID-19, but sharing accurate information does. Fight the virus and not the people.
Anti-security. Governor Ben Ayade of Cross River State has inaugurated the Cross River State Police Command of the State Community Policing Advisory Committee and the State Community Policing Committee. Paul Abel reports.
This inauguration attests to the resolve of the federal government to institutionalize community policing as a crime-solving philosophy that is people-oriented. The six-man committee, headed by the state governor, to be replicated at the local government and other levels, will recruit special constables in communities to fight crime, among other responsibilities.
I'll be comfortable with the matrimony. I'll be comfortable with the community police and not an extended arm of the federal government police. That understanding has to be clear, so that we as governors, as we come into this, we come with a clear understanding that we are partners in progress.
The committee that is about to be inaugurated today will function in the following ways. Identify security threats in their communities and work with the local police in evolving appropriate approaches towards addressing them.
Those to be recruited formally will be trained and they will work with the police and members of the community to fight crime in their various areas of responsibility.
The new partnership, which is a legal instrument of the Police Act, is expected to bring policing closer to the grassroots, while the recruited special constables will not be subject to transfer and will operate only within their community jurisdiction. In Calabar, Paul Abel, NTA News.
And in neighboring Benue State, prominent sons and daughters of the Tiv-speaking people have been summoned by Governor Samuel Ortom to discuss the way out of the persistent violence in some Tiv communities in the state. Charles Appa reports.
For quite some time now, frequent crises have been witnessed in many parts of communities in Tiv-speaking areas of Benue State, resulting in loss of lives, destruction of property, and displacement of people. Governor Samuel Ortom, who attributed the violence to land disputes, farmer-herder clashes, fetishism, and youth restiveness, commended 4 traditional leaders for maintaining peace in their domains, 10 others for encouraging farming activities, and he ordered the arrest of 1 for aiding and abetting crisis and suspended 3 who are to be investigated.
Henceforth, no one will be spared if he is culpable of causing any form of crisis in Benue State.
The governor also ordered council chairmen to hold monthly security meetings to fish out criminal elements in their areas. The Tortiv, Professor James Ayase, and others who described the troubles as worrisome pledged their support to the state government to end the impasse. They maintain that there can be no meaningful development in the face of crisis. In Makudi, Charles Abba, NTA News.
Meanwhile, 173 inmates in Adamawa State have benefited from the federal government's correctional centers decongestion exercise designed to curtail the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Tafar Hamza reports.
8 correctional centers were visited in 3 senatorial zones of the state. In medium security custodial center Jimeta, 28 inmates were released, 7 granted bail. In 2 centers located in Yola, 59 inmates benefited. 44 out of the number were released from confinement, 15 granted bail. In Jada, Ganye, Numan, Mubi, and Hong, 59 inmates were released.